Hello you guys, what is up? Well, welcome back to my channel and welcome to what feels like it's been a long time, a new little chatty finance video. I used to do these monthly, which I kind of want to bring them back, and we had like a different theme every month that we just sat and we chatted about and talked about our feelings with money and all that stuff. I know a lot of you guys that are new here came from my fall content, but I love talking about personal finance, and just my motto on this channel is getting through life in my 20s, and I do think that personal finance is such an important aspect. I'm gonna be really fidgety in this video because I'm really nervous about this one specifically. I don't know why. You guys are always asking for this video, but I always feel sometimes with these kinds of videos it like sounds gimmicky, you know, like I got out of credit card debt and now I'm gonna teach you how. Like that just gives gimmicky vibes sometimes, you know, and I never want my videos to come across like that. But this is a subject that I am very passionate on because it was me and is still me, because I don't think that impulse spending or whatever your downfall is, you are never going to be 100% perfect at it, and you are always going to have to be working towards it regardless of how much money you make one day or how hard you work on it. You are always going to be working towards it. So anyways, if you couldn't tell by the title, today we are talking all about impulse spending, how I stopped impulse spending, but I put stopped in quotations because I'm not 100% perfect. Like I have my own downfalls and we'll get into that, but I wanted to share some tips and tricks with you guys. Give me a chatty one, grab a glass of wine, coffee, matcha, tea, juice, water, electrolytes, whatever you fancy, and we're gonna jump into it. Let's start with just like a little intro and just I guess like a little bit about me if you guys are new here. So I have always had like a full-time job. I have a horse, and my parents taught me from a very young age to pay my bills and to be responsible with my money. I turned 18. The bank handed me a credit card. No one taught me how to use it, and I spent and I spent. I did this, and there's a psychological reason behind it, because my parents worked really hard growing up. I grew up, I'd say like lower middle class. You know, my parents worked really hard to put a roof over our heads, and I'm sure that they had their struggles. For me, spending on name brands and things like that was a way for me to like prove that I had money that I didn't really have. And I accumulated about $10,000 in credit card debt by the time I graduated. Also, I am Canadian, so $10,000 Canadian, and about $10,000 in student loan debt because my biological dad did pay for my schooling. In 2020, when I graduated, I moved in with my boyfriend, now fiance, and he was really good with his money, and he inspired me to really get my shit together, to be honest. And that is when I started to realize I didn't want to live in credit card debt. I was at a point where I like could only put $5 of gas in my car because I had no money to my name, and my credit cards were always maxed out. And it's not because I didn't make good money. I worked in the hospital pretty much my whole undergrad degree, making like $25 an hour. So it's like I was making money, I was living at home, I did have bills, but I, when budgeting, should have had a decent amount left over, and I was just spending impulsively, and that is, and is to this day, my biggest downfall still. So that's just like a little bit about me. And I did do some financial therapy, and that really helped me a lot, and I'll talk a bit more about that after. But I just want to remind you guys that just because you impulse spend does not mean that you don't know how to manage your money or that you're bad with your money. I just want to remind you of that. Take a second, rewind it, listen to it again. Just because you impulse spend does not mean you don't know how to manage money or that you're bad with your money. I think as a psychology major, there is some science behind it. And if you see me looking down, it's because I have my laptop. I have a ton of notes. I have been extensively researching and getting this video prepared for months. So I have a lot of things to talk about. Impulse spending is a habit loop, and you have to understand the science behind it in order to break that cycle. And so obviously, for any of my psych majors out there, or just anyone in general who understands habit loops, I'll put a picture here of what it looks like. You have your cue, your routine, and your reward. You know, your cue is like your emotions. So whether you spend money because you're sad, you're overwhelmed, you're stressed, or just because you need a dopamine hit, and then your routine is spending said money, then the reward is that you get that temporary dopamine hit, right? And you feel better for an instant. And so I think it's really important to understand the psychology behind impulse spending and just spending in general. I also just want to say that on this channel, we do not promote deprivation or restriction. You guys would see that in my budget videos. I'm all about spending in areas that bring you happiness. I'm not going to sit here and tell you to restrict the shit out of your money, because guess what? That's just going to lead you right back into that habit loop. I think that good things take time. I think that progress isn't always linear. There's no such thing as perfection in finance. To be honest, we're all triggered to spend money. Look at this day and age and consumerism and TikTok, and you know, you see something, and we're gonna dive deeper into the tips that I have, but it's everywhere and it's not just you. I still struggle with it to this day, even after working on this for years. I still will spontaneously buy things on Amazon because I see it on TikTok. Like, I'm not perfect either. And I think that's why it's so important I do talk about it, because I don't ever want anyone to feel like I'm just like this perfect personal finance person on the internet, because I'm not. And I have my impulsive spending moments too. I also do think too that no one talks about giving ourselves grace, and this kind of comes back to my last little like just social media and consumerism, because stores are strategic and stores want you to spend money. You're not like an awful person because you overspent at Target or wherever it is, because the store is like scientifically and strategically set up to attack the human weakness. You can't always fault yourself, because I do think that in this day and age, social media and stores play such a big effect into impulse spending. Like, they do it on purpose, you guys. Like, there is data-driven algorithms as to why they place certain things in certain spots in Target and floor plans and all that kind of stuff, and online stores and ads, because they want you to spend money. So you have to give yourself grace at the end of the day, because society and stores and everyone is just pressuring us to spend money. So I just want you guys to step back, take a deep breath, and give yourself a little bit of grace, because you are doing good. Doesn't mean you're bad with your money or you don't know how to manage it. And I'm gonna give you guys some tips and tricks that hopefully will help, that have helped me. The psychology major in myself is like really thriving right now, and I really hope I'm in focus, because this camera has given me so many issues lately, and I'll film like a whole video and not realize I'm in focus. So I really hope I'm. But the first tip that I have is, like, are you kidding me? I had to turn the lamp warmer down. It was like messing with the settings on the camera. So if I look a little different, that's why. I'm like boiling. We're going through a heat wave right now, but I packed away all of the summer clothes, which was not, I mean, I didn't think it was gonna go up to 90 degrees in October, but here we are. So anyways, let's jump into it. My first tip is to dig deep and figure out why. I personally did some therapy for this, but I don't think it's necessary, of course. I'm gonna share some specific examples that I have found through like extensive research, and then also just kind of some of the reasonings that I had as to why I impulse controlled. But in order to fix your impulse spending, you have to figure out why you do it. Like, you have to figure out the root problem, right, to get to the solution. Here are just some like examples as to why people, you know, spend impulsively. I definitely think, and this is not me shitting on the parents, but it's like a lot of other things that, you know, we didn't realize how big of an effect our childhood played on us. So for example, if you saw your parents saying, no, you can't have this, no, we can't afford this, no, 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 it would cause you potentially in your adult years, which I totally understand, to buy because you don't want to have to tell yourself no, and you want to like prove to the world that you can afford things. So I definitely think there is like a past trauma from your upbringing correlation to impulse spending as well. Also, if I'm out of breath, it's because I have my allergies real bad right now, and I'm like pushing through a sore throat to record this video, so I need to take a lot of breaths. If you guys don't know, I have long COVID and costochondritis, so sometimes talking for a long time, like, I get really out of breath. But just don't mind me, I'm fine. The other one kind of relates to the first one, is that you just like having control, like having the control to just say like, I want to buy this and I can, and I don't have to tell myself no. And then there's like specific items that, you know, through research have a correlation, right? And I was like reading a bunch of TikTok comments about why people spend, and I wanted to just share some of the examples that were given, because I think that it makes a lot of sense. So, you know, if you're someone who, let's say you see a TikTok on these beautiful aesthetic fridge with all the like acrylic-y containers, you might look at that and say, you know, like, I can't eat healthy, I can't do anything until I have that, right? Like, it never feels good enough. And so you might see that and think, I need to go spend $150 on acrylic containers because they have their life together, and I think I need that to have my life together. And you need that to feel functional, or that you can't do it otherwise. There's also, you know, some people like buy perfume because they're seeking sensation, or if you impulsively buy home decor, you're seeking to, you know, have a space feel inviting. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to feel these feelings, but it's just getting to the root of what you spend your money on impulsively and why you think that you need it, and trying to work on that. And once again, not restricting or depriving yourself, but setting budgets and working on that impulsivity. For me, at least, growing up when I was a teenager, I was in that phase where I was like, I don't want to be at home. Being at home's not cool. And so for me, I would go out and go get fast food, go to the bookstore, go to Marshall's, go wherever, because I was trying to escape my household. Some people like to avoid discomfort by spending, or some people feel stimulated by buying things that they don't need. Like they just think it's like, it gives them a rush of dopamine. Like, I don't need this, but here I am buying it anyway. I also do think there is a component to feeling like nothing is ever good enough, and that you'll feel better once you have this, or like my wardrobe will be complete when I have this, or I will feel so much better about myself if I have this. But if you do that, and I do it too, you have to really ask yourself, like, you don't feel any better once you buy that object, right? Like, let's say it's a piece of clothing. I, for example, am the kind of person that'd be like, oh my gosh, look at that sweater. My wardrobe will be totally complete once I have that sweater and I won't need anything else. But then I'll buy it, and then I'll notice in a week that I'm just looking for another piece of clothing. And so you kind of have to stop yourself when you're thinking those thoughts, and really ask yourself if it's true, because oftentimes it's not, and we don't feel complete even when we have that object. Society buy things that represent who we want to be and not who we are, which also plays into that. Like, if I have that, I'll be a better version of myself. Skincare, hair care, makeup, Amazon, right? Like, look at like these home storage, all these kind of things, right? You'll be like, well, once I just have that, I'll feel so much put together with my life. Or I know for me, when I see these like work from home office makeovers, I'm like, if I just had all that stuff and I did a work from home office makeover, like, I would feel way more organized working from home. But like, guess what? You're not. You're gonna get that stuff, and then in a week, you're still gonna have the same habits, because buying objects doesn't fix your habits. Another one that I really struggle with is supporting small businesses just to support them. And while I think it's great to support small businesses, I've learned that there's other ways to do so, by like sharing an Instagram post, commenting, telling a friend. But one of my weaknesses, which I think is important to share, because once again, I'm not perfect, and I'm not just gonna sit here and blabber about how I stopped impulse spending, but I'm not gonna tell you like what I did to stop it for me, just like general tips. For me, that is the worst. Like, farmers markets, I could blow so much money because I just want to support everyone, no matter if I need something from them or not. And odds are I don't, but I want to buy something because I want to support them. I don't think there's anything wrong with like treating yourself to a coffee. You guys know we do the takeout, or the Friday coffee takeouts, which is like a nice way to celebrate the end of the work week. But you see a lot of times people that are like, I got through the work week, so let's go shopping, right? Like, it's really digging deep and figuring out like why we do these things. That was a lot of talking. I'm a little bit out of breath, I'm not gonna lie, but those are just like kind of some of the reasons, I think the popular reasons as to why we spend a lot, and maybe some of those resonate with you. I know for me that I couldn't really tackle my impulse spending problems until I figured out why I did it, and it took like watching and listening to a bunch of podcasts for me to be like, whoa, that makes so much sense. That's why I spend money. So I really hope that was helpful for you guys. My next tip is having a system in place. So once you figured out, or you're starting to figure out, you may jot things down and you're gonna learn as you go why you impulse spend, but you need to have a system in place, and it's gonna take some tweaking and some time. Like anything, you know, I always say, like a budget spreadsheet, you're not just gonna love the first spreadsheet you use. It's gonna take time to figure out what works for you. Here are some of the like things you can do. So the first thing I always do is I have a list of questions that I ask myself before I buy something. There's a bunch of different like variations and stuff, but some of the questions I ask myself include, you know, do I actually need this? Is this in the budget? Can this wait until next month? Could I borrow it? If it was something on sale, I always ask myself, would I buy this full price? Have I looked for a better price? Can I buy this used? Is this something I can wait for and ask for as a gift? Will this help me create income? That's a big one too, right? Like if you're buying something like a camera and you're a creator, you know, will this help generate income? Do I only want this because I saw someone else have it? Do I only want this because I'm sad, happy, or emotional? How many hours do I have to work to pay for this? How long will I keep it? And how many uses will I get out of it? Those are just like some of the questions you can ask yourself. Like I said, there's a ton of these like checklists on Pinterest if you're interested in downloading one, maybe saving it to like your phone background. I found that really helpful at first. Things you could do, make a wish list. I have a wish list on my Notion. Establishing a timeline you wait before spending. So let's say for me, it's always the middle of the night. I'm scrolling TikTok and I see something. I will like add things to my Amazon cart. I would leave it for at least like a week. Even if it's something that's like a lightning deal. Like they just do that to make you buy it, guys. Do you not realize that? you know? And so I will try and wait at least a week before buying something. I'll leave it in my cart, and if I cannot stop thinking about it after a week, then I will consider, I won't immediately buy it, but I'll consider it. And then if I don't think about it, it like gets deleted or saved for later, you know? And yours can be different. Yours can be 3 days, yours can be 4 days, it can be 2 weeks if you want, but establishing a timeline that you wait before making a purchase is probably the biggest tip that I have, and that's helped me the most. There's also the delay, distract, and deframe mindset. We talked about delaying, putting it in your cart, leaving it. Distract, if you're someone who finds themselves wandering around stores when you're sad or you're emotional, etc., try going for a walk, try going to the gym, try calling a friend, try to distract yourself and remove the link in your brain from I'm sad, let's shop, I'm bored, let's shop, to I'm bored, let's go for a walk, I'm bored, let's call a friend, I'm bored, let's watch a show, I'm bored, let's read a book. And then also defame. I feel like when you want to buy something, you read just the good reviews, so also reading the negative reviews and really asking yourself like how much use you're going to get out of a product. This one helps me a lot because I hate doing returns, and that is when thinking about like the time and effort it would take to return this if I'm not 100% sure of it. That one gets me because I hate doing returns. So if I sit and think about how much time it's going to take to return something, I won't do it. But then again, sites like Amazon make it so easy for you to return stuff. So you have to remember that they're doing this on purpose to trick your little mind. Another system I have in place, and you guys know I've talked about this before, but grocery stores are my kryptonite. I fall for it. I fall for the strategic placement of the aisles and the products, especially grocery stores that have like clothes and stuff, like Superstore for us in Canada, Target in the States. Like, I know that's my downfall, and so knowing what certain stores are your downfall as well really helps. And so I will only go into the grocery store if I know I'm in the right frame of mind. Now, is there times I have to go into the grocery store and grab something? 100% yes. I really try to only grocery shop when I'm in the right mindset, when I'm not hungry, and when, you know, I play a little game like you only have this much money to spend, get in, get out, that's it. Or like, can you get in and out of the grocery store with just what you need? I also too, at the end of my grocery shopping, will also like reconsider anything in my cart that I don't need. And yeah, so I try and avoid grocery shopping when I'm sad, emotional, stressed, etc. Obviously you can't always do that. Matt and I are also like a non-kid family, so we kind of can do things at our leisure a bit more. But that's a tip that I have, is like taking your kryptonite and finding ways to work on that specifically. For me, it's grocery stores. The next tip that I have kind of goes with this tip, and that is making things easier for you. So have a system in place, and then we're going to make things easier for us. And what I mean by that is, one, if you're like me and your kryptonite is grocery stores, we started doing meal kits, so we have to go to the grocery store less. We actually save money doing it that way because I don't impulsively buy the whole grocery store, or maybe doing like curbside pickup so you don't have to go in the grocery store. I've heard that is really helpful to a lot of people as well. I've unsubscribed from like pretty much any sale email ever, because I will just be sitting there. Okay, my wardrobe could be like 99% complete. I'll get an email saying like 50% off Old Navy, and I'll be like, I just, it's a sale, I need to shop when I don't need anything. So avoiding that trigger is really helpful. So I've unsubscribed to all of my emails. I tell them in the store I'm not interested in the emails. Taking auto pay off your phone, that also is a big downfall for me, because I'm just like, well, I already have my Visa information inputted. Take that off your phone and your computer, which this doesn't apply to everyone, but if I have to go grocery shopping, I will try and bring Matt with me because he's like my voice of reason, and that man can just go into the grocery store, get what he needs, and leave. Same with like Marshalls or anything, and so I try and bring him with me when I can to avoid that like temptation to buy random stuff, and if I do, he'll talk me out of it. The last one I have in this category that really helps me in terms of like, once again, I'm just using grocery shopping because that's like my kryptonite, is not bringing, if I'm going for something quick, not bringing a bag in the store. We do this with Costco too. This helps a lot with Costco because I find Costco is really easy to overspend. I will like try and force myself to go into the store without bags so that I have to physically carry all the items I need. This only really works if I'm going in for like 1 or 2 things. Like yesterday we were out of pizza dough and pepperoni. I didn't bring a bag in. I didn't grab a cart because I needed 2 things that I could carry, and that decreases the likelihood of just having a big cart and throwing random things in there if I have to carry everything out with my own 2 hands. Like I said, we are all about spending. I'll be the first to say it. Like, I enjoy spending money, and as should you, on the things that you enjoy spending on. We're not going to restrict. We're not going to deprive. We're simply just going to stop spending as much in the categories we don't care about, because I find oftentimes I impulse spend in categories I don't really care about. And this is my next tip, is spending where it brings you joy and getting creative. So I think the first thing to do if you don't already have a budget in place is download a budget spreadsheet and track your last month of spending. Because I feel like when you start to think, oh, I'm gonna start budgeting, you start to spend a little bit less because you're like, I gotta track this. Take your last month and go through those expense categories, groceries, shopping, health and wellness, appointments, and see what really brings you joy. What categories really bring you joy? I oftentimes find that the categories I overspend in are not categories that bring me joy. If I overspent in books, I'd be a bit more lenient with myself because I love buying books, but I always tend to like overspend in categories I just don't care about. For example, when I was working on my impulse spending, I found I impulse spent a lot on makeup and clothing, which are two categories I really don't care that much about. And now I use the same makeup products over and over again because it reduces the likelihood of trying things new and spending money. It's not about restricting, it's just about cutting back on the places that don't bring us joy. And I think as much as it doesn't like directly correlate to impulse spending, you have to recognize, are the purchases you are making bringing you joy? So for example, for me, places I like to spend my money on are coffee, books, and experiences. I don't really care that much about buying clothes. Like, do I buy clothes? Yes, we need clothes. Do I buy shoes? Yes, we need shoes, but they're not categories that bring me a lot of happiness. Little trinkets and stuff, that doesn't bring me happiness. And that is one of my biggest downfalls, as well as like HomeSense or the thrift store. I'll be like, this is such a good deal, I need to buy it just because I'm at the thrift store. No, you don't. I'd rather save my money towards furniture and upgrading our home than like trinket little things that I find. I just recently did like a huge closet declutter because I realized that I spend, well, I don't. This is the thing. I buy a lot of clothes and I return most of them. And I recognize that, and that's something I'm working on, and I think it plays into, like, social media plays in a role of that. I just did a big closet declutter because I was like, buying clothes doesn't give me joy. I'm gonna narrow it down to what I really love. Like I said, I'm not perfect. Up until this day, I struggle a lot with like, I'll buy a bunch of clothes. I think it's hard too when you're a creator and you're in the space of like, you can have write-offs. Like, just because you can write something off doesn't mean you need to buy it, you know? Some of these tips kind of like overlap, but is realizing that buying the item doesn't fix anything. I think that perfectionism plays a really big role in hyperfixation and impulse spending, right? Like we talked about earlier, this concept of like, oh, my life will be so put together when I have this. Or you see TikTok that's like, you need this in your life. And you're like, well, once I have this, my life is gonna be together because so-and-so said so. Buying something is never gonna fulfill you completely. It's never going to, okay? You're always like, oh, once I have this, I'll be happy. No, you're not, because a week later, you're gonna want something else. And you have to be able to recognize that and realize that and tell yourself that. And I still struggle with this. I still struggle, like I said, I'll see someone do like a whole office makeover and I'm like, if I just had that desk, if I just had that chair, if I just had this gadget, my life would be complete. And it never is. So I do think that just being able to recognize that is really, really important. The next is to follow people who don't make you feel pressured to spend, especially on this day of social media. I'm a YouTube girly, okay? Whenever I sit down, like if Matt is gone for the night and I sit down with a glass of wine, I'm watching YouTube, I'm not watching TV. And I've done a really big, and I'm continuously doing this, and you know, I'm not gonna be for everybody. And if someone's watching this right now and is like, you know what, I just don't vibe with this girl, feel free to unsubscribe. Like, that's okay. You are not gonna be everyone's cup of tea. You're not gonna be what everyone's looking for. And I would hope that my goal with my channel is to never make people feel like they have to spend money or that they need something. You know, that's why when you see my monthly resets, I only really give like the favorites that like I cannot live without, and it's usually like 3 or 4 items, that's it. I always try and talk through my thought process when we're buying something, like when we do room makeovers. I love to talk about my thought process with, you know, buying things used, what I buy new, what I like to spend versus save on. I think it's important to surround yourself with people, and a lot of us don't realize we're doing this, but to surround yourself with people that make you feel good about where you are right now, that you don't need that other pair of jeans, that you don't need this, that you don't need that. And there's a lot of influencers out there who their sole job is pushing Amazon and Like to Know It and all of these things. And sure, once in a while I'm gonna say like, these are my favorite jeans. I'll link them in case you're interested. I own 2 pairs of jeans. Like, you obviously know that I love them, but I never want anyone to feel pressured. And I think it's really important to take inventory of who you follow. Just ask yourself, does this person make me feel better about myself or worse? And like I said, there's some people out there who love the Amazon girlies, okay, the Amazon influencers. I'm not one of them because I don't want to be pressured to buy something every 6 seconds, and that's okay. But I always hope at the end of the day that I make people feel like they are enough. I don't like watching YouTube videos where I just feel like I'm not good enough, that my home isn't good enough, my clothing is not good enough, and I never want anyone to feel like that. And so that's one of my biggest tips. In this day and age of being on social media, surround yourself with people who make you feel like you're good enough. Or like, I love to surround myself with people who shop secondhand because it's fun, it's an adventure. I have a good group of people that I know when they talk about something they like, they genuinely mean it because they aren't shopping a lot. And that's kind of how I hope people view my channel as well. 2 more tips for you guys. The next is realistic, not restrictive. We've already kind of talked about this, but budget is personal to you and your life. I know we all love to share our budgets online. I love to do it too, but I never want someone to see my budget and say that works for her, that's gonna work for me, because it's not. Mine is for me, not for you. If you're working on your impulse spending, don't just say I'm spending $0 on shopping this month. And this kind of ties into my next tip of starting small, but let's say you tracked your spending last month, you spent $500 on clothing. Maybe this month, you know, go for 300. We're not going balls to the wall 0 here, okay? Like, I got really excited there. I was like flinging my hair and everything. You gotta start small and you have to be realistic. If your budget is too restrictive, you're not gonna spend on it and you're just gonna overspend. It's like binging to me, right? Like, if you are so restrictive with what you eat, and this comes from experience, you're just gonna binge. If you're too restrictive with your budget, you're just gonna binge spend. And that's it. Realistic, not restrictive. And my last tip for you guys is to start small. Guys, I'm telling you, like, I've dealt with this firsthand. I'm still working on this. I keep saying this, but I'm not perfect. I don't want anyone to watch this video and think I'm perfect. The first time is the hardest, but you have to practice saying no. And the easiest way to do this is in ways that are not intimidating. Lucky that I don't surround myself with friends that are like, let's go shopping. I definitely did that in university, but Matt and I, you know, we love to walk around the thrift store, but like, you have to start to learn how to say no. It can even be saying no to yourself. You see a sale, you click on the email, and you say, no, I don't need that. That's it, shut the computer. First time is truly the hardest. And then you're gonna slowly get into a rhythm, and you're not gonna be perfect, and progress is not linear, and you're gonna have slip-ups, and it's life. Like, it's life, okay? It's gonna happen. But you have to practice saying no, and you have to start small. Whether that can be, you know, for example, the other day I was feeling so overwhelmed, and my favorite thing to do is grab a little coffee and walk around HomeSense. I'm not saying I don't ever do that, because we all know I do, but I don't do it when I'm in certain mindsets. And I was feeling really overwhelmed. I was like on the verge of tears all day. We obviously went through a lot this weekend. I was like, you know, I think I had gone to like get gas, or no, I had gone to Canadian Tire to get something for my car that I needed, like spark plugs. And I was like, I'm just gonna stop at HomeSense and walk around. And I know if I would have walked in there, I would have spent $100 on really random shit that I didn't need. And so I just drove past it. And that is a small win, or a big win, however you want to look at it. But I said no to myself. If you have a friend group that always wants to shop, that's a bit harder than saying no to yourself, right? Just being like, can we do something else? If you're really bored, instead of being like, I'm gonna go walk around the mall, you know, say no, I'm gonna go for a walk instead. And it's just learning to say no in small ways. And I'm not telling you to say no all the time. Like, if your friends are asking you to go for brunch, obviously you're gonna say yes, like go spend quality time with your friends, but it's learning to say no and build up that momentum of really reassessing if you need something or not. So anyways, that's the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope I gave you guys some good tips and tricks, and I love talking about personal finance. I feel like I needed this video to get back into like the swing of things. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you guys have any other tips that I didn't mention, leave them down below. I love that our community just like all supports each other. So I hope you guys enjoyed and this was helpful, and I just want to remind everyone that no one online is perfect. Even personal finance creators, no one online is perfect. We all have slip-ups, we all have our downfalls. We don't need to idolize anyone on the internet because we're not perfect. So hope you guys enjoyed. I'll talk to you guys next time. Love you all so much. Bye.